Hi, everybody, and welcome again to this edition of the Spartan Sports Report on TV3. Joining us this evening is a guy from CHS, Brent Duncan, who is the athletic director. He's going to tell us all about what's going on at CHS and what might be coming up. Hi, Brent.
I'm glad to have you here. Thanks for having me, Fran and Sam.
Sam, we had a ball game. You went away to Newcastle.
Yeah, a big one at Newcastle.
Newcastle, something happened up there in the fourth period.
Yeah, came from behind, down 12, and able to pull out another win. It was
great.
Man, it was fantastic. And I read somewhere, I forget what it was, but last time we had won up there against them regular season, sometime in the late 80s, I think.
86, I think.
86, so.
I'm not even sure it was 86. I had to go back and look, because Coach Cooley went back to look, and I think we got beat 55-53 in 86. He comes in, he goes, I think we lost by 2 that year, so we went to look, so
okay.
we had to do a little scanning just to figure it out.
It's been a hard place over the years to win.
Yes.
And that was huge.
Oh, road game.
And after coming back from just a few nights before when Muncie Central was here at the Bowl, and coming down from 12 on that one and winning that one also. So the guys are playing pretty well.
Saturday night, Batesville came to town, 1-11, and Coach Brown and I talked before the game. I said, imagine you're trying to impress these guys of yours that they could be 11-1 instead of 1-11, but it was a low-scoring ball game.
It was, and they stuck to their game plan.
Yes.
Coach was afraid it could be a trap game, and you got to give Batesville a lot of credit. They did not look like a 1-11 team.
No, we've said that. Yes.
They stayed within striking distance, and even though it was right around 10 points most of the night, our lead, it just never felt like it was a comfortable lead.
Well, Shane and I were talking about that at the top, and I talked to their coach just a little bit beforehand, and they're young, and they kind of do like we do. If there's for example, Fort Wayne Northside, we limited their possessions, and so I'm sure the coach thought they were a little worse than we were, so he made it slow and what we call slow and ugly to keep them in the game. So, and we've done that to many teams in the past with Coach Brown, keeping that score down in the 40s and just trying to control the game and give yourself an opportunity at the end. So you give them credit for their game plan and staying with it. So, but I'm like you, I have a hard time believing they've only won one game.
And able to get a couple of our guys in early foul trouble, which maybe helped contribute to them keeping it close. And that, man, they ran that weave. Those games are hard to call, Fran. From your experience over the years too, when they just run the weave, and there's not a lot to talk about.
Motion offense. I mean, all 5 guys running crazy in all directions, and that's what it's supposed to do.
Yep.
And it worked, and almost worked for Batesville. I mean, they came to town with that in mind, and.
But a win is a win.
Absolutely.
Whether it's pretty or ugly, and Spartan's 13-3 and 4-0 in the conference. So playing very well. I like what I'm seeing, and I think the community is starting to realize that too. Of course, I challenged people to come the other night, and we had a few more there on Saturday night than we had the week before.
It's kind of been an unusual thing for the last 4 or 5, maybe even a decade. Friday night games have been pretty well attended, but then Saturday night, it's not 1970 anymore where everybody comes home on Saturday night from where they've been. But I was pleasantly surprised with our crowd, and I think, as things continue to roll and people get into the winning mode again and coming to the game and seeing that it's fun and it's really cheap entertainment for the price to get in. And we'll have a couple of tough ones on the weekend this weekend. So
Yeah, it was to say offense sells tickets and defense wins ball games.
Yeah,
so
there you go.
Well, I'm a math guy, so I always told my kids that offense is a variable because it comes and goes, and defense is a constant. You can play that every night of the week. So they don't like that. You know how offensive-minded people are.
We have some video from the game Saturday night with Batesville, so let's see that right now.
There's the.
That's a pretty good catch.
Yeah, it was a real nice catch, and behind the back there, laying it in, Smith.
It's good to see him back.
Oh yeah, that was quite a game.
Yeah, he's Tyler. Yeah, Little Bill, and when he's on, he's on. And,
we saw him 2 years ago pulling up on the front of the
but yeah, this team's just fun to watch, and the great thing about it is several weapons. You never know who's going to step up and lead them on any given night.
Well, I think as you watch Coach Brown over the years here and at other places, they're unselfish. good ball movement, and they're always willing to get the extra pass in to get the one better shot.
Yeah, they are. And finding a way to get to the free throw line and limiting turnovers is another thing that they've done so well this year. That Batesville team, though, back to them, they just, I think that in a year or so, that they're very young, that we'll have our hands full with them in the future.
Yeah, and there's a good possibility, you know, depending on where numbers fall in alignment. We're right on that bottom edge of that 4A class. There's always a possibility in the future we could drop to 3A.
And when is that reclassified again?
We have this year and next year, and then reclassified. So you just never know. Softball and baseball will actually be 3A this year because of the success factor of the schools. We've dropped down a class in baseball and softball. So our sectional is our conference schools minus East Central.
So they take all the schools in the IHSA and divide it by 4, right? Break it into 4.
Yeah, some degree, not exactly, but it's pretty close. And like if a couple schools move up, then they always offer the opportunity for 2 schools to move down. So I think at our last count we were the second smallest 4A school. I'd have to go back and double check that.
I didn't realize we were that close.
We and
I want to say Jay County.
Jay County, Newcastle's usually pretty close at the bottom with us.
They're in 3A now, aren't they?
No,
Are they 4A?
They're 4A.
Okay, I was thinking they were 3A. Yeah. Marion, I think, is 3A.
Yeah, and it isn't that hard to believe, but you know, it's just part of the Rust Belt here in Central Indiana. They've been hit with industry leading, just like we have here in Connersville.
Yeah.
And you know, well, until they closed Muncie Southside, Muncie Central had dropped to 3A also.
Marion Giants.
Okay, 39-28 was the final with the Spartans winning, and as you mentioned, Brent, this weekend we've got a couple of ball games. Mount Vernon from Fortville, 12-2, comes to town Friday night. This team has something going for them.
Yeah, I mean, the last couple of years, there's been some good games with them. Actually, this Friday night will be 6 o'clock start with the JV team in the bowl. We'll also have 6 o'clock start with our freshman boys in the Spartan Arena. So we'll be playing freshman boys and JV boys at the same time Friday night. And then, of course, varsity will be right after that. But, you know, they've done a good job in the last, since we kind of started picking them up and playing a little bit more. And, you know, it's nice to be at home, and it's a non-conference game, so you worry about how your kids approach it. But, you know, coach isn't going to let them get too far out of line.
Sure.
But, you know, you're going to turn around and play Mount Vernon on Friday night and then have to make a nice little road trip to Mooresville that's 10-4 on Saturday. So it's going to be a tough one.
Yes, it is.
Tough games for the weekend.
A couple of teams with winning records. By the way, that game of Batesville will be on TV3 Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights, starting at 8 o'clock. So we hope all the fans will tune in to watch the game.
I watched the other night some of the Muncie Central game. My wife said, "You were there. Why are you watching?" I said, "Well, I want to make sure it turned out the same," and it did. But, you mentioned Mount Vernon, a good team to have on our schedule because they're a possible sectional opponent. And
you know, you try to keep those people, Mount Vernon, Pendleton, Newcastle, of course, a rivalry, Richmond, but all those teams you're going to play in your sectional, you like to see them at least one time during the race. Now, for me, I'd like to see them a little bit earlier and our conference games a little bit later, but that's just a matter of trying to get some schedules tweaked.
And it makes it difficult. You talked about us being at the bottom of 4A. If we would move down to 3A, then some of that scheduling may change, although we still would play. We already play most of those teams that, if they kept the alignment the same in that 3A sectional, we go north for 4A, we would go south for 3A if they did it like they did when we were in 3A previously.
Sure, and if they change it somehow, then you're starting to think of schools like Delta, Yorktown, Blackford, Mississinawa.
So you would want to get them
all
on
those
the schedule.
schools kind of in that little pocket up there. And Coach and I were actually looking at contracts today of who's running out and who. We have at least 3 schools whose contracts will be up this year. Whether we decide to, I don't want to throw their names out there yet, but whether we decide to renew them or not, it's like who would you put in their place? And you know, we've tried to pick Yorktown up in the past, and either their past AD or head coach didn't want to play us. You know, and our girls have played Delta before, and I know they're 3A, but they're right there in that cusp, and they've always had solid basketball programs. Now Yorktown is down this year, but you know, then you're talking on the east side of Indianapolis with Westfield. Well, Westfield's on the north side, but they've expressed some interest in playing us, and possibly Ron Colley and some of those schools. But you know, maybe Whiteland again or wherever we're headed. Just depends on where we go in a couple of years. If you don't have those teams on your schedule, then you want to get them on your schedule.
Back years and years ago, days of South Central Conference and one-class basketball, schedule was pretty much the same year in and year out. You might tweak it one game here or there, but there weren't a lot of changes.
No, and now with everything being realigned every 2 years, sometimes there's a drastic change, or at least you try as best as you can to get as many of the sectional schools onto your schedule. And it's not always, I had somebody tell me a couple of years ago, well, they don't want to play you when you want to play them, just drop them. Well, it's not just as easy as dropping them, because you may not find somebody else that, you know, needs a game on that particular night or that day or that weekend, or when you can move them. So it takes a little logistics to get it done.
I think the quality of the opponents on the schedule now, both boys and girls, is good. A tough schedule, but I think it prepares you for postseason.
Well, I mean, if you don't play the teams that the style that you're gonna face as you get to the tournament, I don't know that you're doing your kids any favors by making it so you can win 17 games in a year, but then you get waxed in the first game of the tournament because you've not played any strong competition. Sure. And I know Kerry and Michael both talked about how tough our schedule is, but neither one of them wanna. Yeah. And I know the girls are struggling this year, but you still don't want to drop those because you're trying to build for the future and prepare yourself for what's coming down the pipe come February for the girls and March for the boys, and be ready for that tournament run. And if you play smaller schools and win, that's great. You know, Northeastern's a smaller school, but they're pretty darn good. Yeah. So not that you put all tough schools on your schedule, but you don't want to just load it with teams you know you should walk through and smack every night and not prepare yourself for what's important at the end of your conference wins and your tournament title.
In the conference, there are several 3A schools, aren't there?
Yeah, of the A, everybody's 3A except for us and
Russia
and East Central.
Oh, okay. So it's a lot of and there wouldn't be going into that sectional should.
Well, if it's like softball and baseball, that's where softball and baseball have dropped to 3A this year. So, and that's the sectional we'll go into. It'll be all of our conference schools minus East Central. So it could go that way. It just depends on where they start. They start in one of the corners and start working their way to the middle when they start doing the tournament alignment. So.
The girls will play their final game Wednesday. Pairings are tonight.
8 o'clock. You can't see it on TV anymore. You can listen to it on radio. I looked up the stations, but I can't remember them all. There's probably 20 or 25 stations. I think
you can get them online too.
You can get them at
IHSA website.
TV.org. You can actually follow a web stream if you can log in, but then right after that, it'll be on the IHSA.org site sometime after the draw is done. I assume the draw will be done by 10 at the latest, and then they'll probably upload it from that point.
Let me ask you, I understand we're going back to Mount Vernon this year. We were there last year for girls sectional. How's that determined?
Well, every 2 years you have to get with the schools that you think are going to be in your thing, and you have to come to an agreement. And if you can't come to the agreement, then the IHSA just assigns it. I did not put our name in the group for this year, as I knew we were putting the new floor in. Didn't want to take a chance there'd be some quirk with the floor. So 2 years from now, I'll put our name back in the loop to start hosting. Yeah, the problem with the boys' side is just we want it, Richmond wants it, Newcastle wants it, Greenfield wants it. Pendleton's gym for me as a boys not big enough overall. Mount Vernon's going to be on the edge, probably big enough, but it'd be close. So,
well,
it's just a hard agreement to ends up being the sign most of the time.
Yes, it is, and it's always been at Newcastle. Which
my thought is, you know, of the 4 larger gyms, I think we should be able to come to agreement that says, okay, this rotation, like now, Mount Vernon's got it for the girls, and I believe next year Greenfield has it for the girls. And then the next 2 years, we should just give it to us in Richmond. If we're assuming we're all going to be in that same section. And if not, we'll have to readjust. But we can never seem to come to that gentleman's agreement.
Well, and it's, we're going to facilities that aren't as nice. Even Greenfield, while they've put in new bleachers and it seats a lot, it's still not as nice as Tiernan Center or the Newcastle Fieldhouse or Spartan Bowl. And from a fan standpoint, I would think we would want to have that in comfortable surroundings.
Well, I would agree with that. So, and like I said, I did not apply this year, but I will when the next rotation, because I just wanted to make sure we got the floor in
Sure.
timely, and there wasn't any issues with it after.
Sure.
Even
so.
when Muncie Central was in the mix and Anderson was in the mix when it was an 8-team sectional, certainly the field house at Muncie Central is large enough. They don't play at the Wigwam anymore, but when they were playing at the Wigwam, that was certainly
Yes.
big enough. So I just think it's unfortunate that it's held. The boys sectional is held, and it is centrally located. I will give them that at Chrysler Fieldhouse in Newcastle. I just question the distance, maybe. Of course, they would question if they were coming to Connersville
Sure.
too, but the distance to Mount Vernon or to Pendleton Heights from here or from Richmond is pretty good haul.
Yeah, and it's just a matter of can we all come to an agreement? And I think we all should be able to come to an agreement, but it only takes one to be the discontent one, and then you have to send it to the IHSA, and then they assign it. Of course, they're pretty much going to assign it to Newcastle most of the
Is the
time.
Newcastle, is it ever filled to capacity?
Probably hasn't been since when I got here in '89, '90, and we had some of the first rounds when we were in the regional final. It was pretty close.
Last
I would
year
think.
of single class basketball, when Connersville, Newcastle, Batesville, and Winchester, I believe, were the 4 teams. It was full.
Was it?
It was
Yes.
full, standing room only. Of course, that was the end of an era, and a lot of
Yeah.
people wanted to see it
Sure, sure.
for the regional, and
Sure.
it was a great regional.
Yes, yes. Tell us about the winter season, your opinion, how things going, and
Well, I think we've had a pretty good overall winter season. I know girls varsity struggling, but they're playing hard, and I see improvement each time I go. The young kids are getting better, and the older girls are leading them and hopefully teaching them the things that Michael wanted to have them done. And then the freshman girls we've actually had enough to have a freshman team. They're actually in the semifinals of what we call the EIAC tournament. It's not really classified as an EIAC tournament, but it's all the schools that have a freshman. They're playing in the second round tonight against Rushville. They're actually at Greensburg. Should be there by now. And then if they happen to win that, they'll play Thursday at Franklin County in the finals of that. Our boys unfortunately got beat Saturday by Greensburg in the freshman tournament. Wrestling was right at 500 for their dual meets season. Finished 6th in the conference Saturday. Unfortunately, didn't have any conference title winners, but Brady Gosnell got second at, I won't get his weight class correct, I want to say 138. And Jacob Doherty got second at 152, and Jake was a 3-2 final decision in the final match. So their sectional actually starts next Saturday at Franklin County at 9 in the morning. And then swimming's had a great season so far.
Oh,
I think
yes.
the girls are 9-1 and the boys are 9-0, and the boys finished second in the conference, and the girls finished 4th, if I remember correctly off the top of my head. But one all-conference swimmer in Reese and the girls. She won the 100 back and the 200 free, and then Zane Spurlock won the 100 freestyle in the boys, and then we had a relay team that won the 400 free, which was Brennan Beckman, Stephen Kiefaber, Zane Spurlock, and Noah Sherwood, I believe, without cheating and looking at my paper. But
That's pretty good.
yes, it is. We did one of their meets, and it's quite an exciting evening.
they've had a good couple years.
Yes.
Actually, we've had probably 3 or 4 consecutive. Since the oldest Drew girl came through, and that first year in the conference, we won every event there was in the conference and the girls meet. Of the 12, we won them all. So not quite that solid this year, but we've done pretty well.
Daryl's done a good job, and he
I
gives
think
a lot
there's-
of credit to his assistants.
I think there's some benefit. He does help with our CAS program, and he helps with the middle school team, and then he transitions up to the high school, so the
Yes.
kids know him at a young age.
Yes.
We'll be interested to see what happens when the youngest daughter graduates. We're in that same boat with volleyball. I don't know that my volleyball coaches aren't coming back, but their 2 daughters are seniors this year, and they're the last of the line. Well, Brett's got a boy, but not into volleyball, so.
So you're going to be.
So I think Penny's back, but I haven't got any word that she's not coming back. But
She does a great job.
she does. She's been around for a
Yeah.
long time, and
Knows the game well.
Yes.
So, and I think our young girls, we have a solid group of freshman kids, and then of course gymnastics has just started. So they're 2-0 with 2 dual meets, and they were at Fort Wayne this weekend. And if you've not been up to Fort Wayne, Concordia, there's Valpo and all those tools from the north that are just predominant state contenders year in and year
Yes.
out. Now, we did finish 8th out of 12 teams, but we're pretty young there. We got 2 senior gymnasts, and Kylie Elliman and Storm Farley, and then we have a senior manager, Victoria McQueen. we're, a couple freshmen and some sophomores thrown into the mix, and I guess Reagan Over come out this year for the first year as a junior, so we got some new people into the bunch, and with Allie Sargent and Caitlin Burris and Whitney Owens and some of those young, I know I missed a few, but
sure,
some of those young kids that are out there.
Talk about the JV teams. The boys and girls are both kind of struggling. The junior Spartans.
I think you hope as a longtime JV coach and varsity assistant, you hope that you do want those teams to win, but I think in the big scheme of things, you want them to learn how to play the game the right way so they can step up in the future years. As you look at some of those, you've already moved Noah from the boys team all the way to the varsity. You got freshman girls that are playing JV that went straight from 8th grade, and I don't know if you've never been there, but when you go from 8th grade to JV and you're playing juniors and sophomores a lot of times,
sure,
that's a different in the speed of the game. And sometimes it's just about the intensity that you bring to the game. And that's where we're working at, and our whole overall program is getting the kids to understand that even starting in 7th grade, you may lose, but you need to really play hard and learn how to develop the skills so that you're successful 3 years down the road. So those are things that we're working on.
Sure, that's what it's all about, I guess.
But, I think overall, I would think Coach Peck's somewhat satisfied with the JV. I'm sure Coach Bott's a little frustrated just knowing Coach Bott's personality, but he was a senior when I got here a long time ago, so I don't think his intensity has changed much over the last 27 years.
He was fun to watch play, and he's fun to watch coach.
But, I think he does a good job. I think they've all got people in line that they're working on to do their system and terminology and things going in the correct direction. So
that's good. That spells success, I think.
But I think that consistency, and you get those people in place that will do what you need to get done, and not always worry about if you're undefeated as a 7th grade team, but are you teaching them the right skills and teaching them how to play hard and work hard and do the right things to make them successful.
The thing about those middle school teams, you got the red and the white team, and just because a young person's on that white team, they at that age they're still growing, still maturing, developing, and they could end up being a star by the time they're in high school, even though they may not be as good at the lower grades.
Sometimes, and I've been here for a long time, and sometimes it seems, I won't say always, but sometimes that kid who's a little more mature, a little more coordinated, gets the benefit of the doubt over the rest of them, and they might be 5'6" in 7th grade, but they might be 5'7" when they graduate. And that poor little skinny kid that was 5'2" and scrawny is now 6'5" and big. So, I go back to, I can't tell you what year, but Todd Barrett played starting point guard here. His senior year, he played 7th grade white, 8th grade white, 9th grade B, JV, starting varsity guard. So, but he's the only one left in the senior class. They all else had filtered off to the side somewhere. So you just never know what's going to happen as you get older. People get different interests and things come away and people move and people get hurt and people get disgruntled or whatever they do.
It's interesting that Coach Thompson talks about his girls and he may start out in the 7th grade and I don't know, there's 30, 40 kids playing. The other night we interviewed 3 seniors, and he's talked about that before, and I talked to them about that on the air, about the perseverance that it took for them to stick with this game and to be the only 3 left. And I think that's a statement of their character.
Sure, I mean, all 3 of those girls are class acts and good students and do the things they're supposed to be doing. And as an ex-coach, you always kind of talk about things to really run a successful basketball program. If you can get 4 or 5 kids per class, you can have a great varsity team. It's not like football where you got to have numbers. Basketball you can get away sometimes, but I hope there's a rebirth of girls basketball. We've kind of gone through some down cycles of the number of girls who actually want to play, and I don't know if that's a cross product of I'm not on this AAU team, or we're not playing in this league, or somebody didn't pick me up, or but when April came through, we kind of had a little shot in the arm, and then it's kind of died. And now I hope that, we got to get our younger kids out playing and then into the elementary leagues and just being a part of it. And, we used to have the elementary school teams, and now we have the city teams, which are great, but we got to get numbers up. There's strength in numbers when you can find the gym somewhere down the line that you didn't know about. So, or the tall girls playing, but at a younger age, because they're uncoordinated, they have to sit, and they get frustrated, and they don't come back out. So, but
are there girls' teams at the middle school level?
Yeah, we have 8 red, 8 white.
Okay.
7 red, 7 white.
Oh, good.
The numbers are down a little bit, but that's what hopefully we've been discussing about how to get those back up. So
those youngsters will move into the freshmen, the 8th graders will be freshmen.
yeah, and depending on how, of course, for them, there's a lot of freshmen above them right now, 14 or so girls on the varsity and JV, so we might be able to keep a lot of those at the freshman level and let them develop another year before we have to throw them into the wolves, so to speak, at the varsity JV level.
Coach Thompson, even though those freshman girls are on the JV team, he's been using them a lot on varsity, and you can see continued improvement and that's got to be something to go. And you talked about a little bit, but just to go from to freshman or to JV, but to go from 8th grade to playing varsity is.
Well, and you're coming in as maybe a 14-year-old, and you're playing 19 and 18-year-olds that have had 5 more years of experience in physical and in the weight room, and it makes a huge difference, and just to look at some of our small, frail freshman girls that are just trying to grow still, and you got the lady standing over there that's 19 years old that's knocking you around, so makes a little bit of difference sometimes.
We had one of our girls soccer players sign with a college.
I can't remember which one, so.
Huntington Jordan Harris, I believe.
She come in, I don't think anybody came in and told me if they did. But I'm excited for her. She's a great kid. She's on our student athletic council, and anytime we can get a student to go somewhere and play is phenomenal these days. And not everybody's going to be a Division I, Butler, Florida State. There's all kinds of opportunities at Division II, Division III, and NAIA schools. And
sure.
I think people don't realize how good that talent is, even at those lower levels. They may not be get your big recruit, but they'll get that second or third kid that just wants to win constantly, and you get 10 of those on your team, makes you pretty solid. So.
Okay, what's the outlook for CHS in the spring?
It was hard to believe that track actually starts February 15th, so it's right around the corner. So, and then shortly after that, softball starts March 7th, and everything else starts March 14th. So,
okay.
We got new track coaches with Kelly House as the head girls coach, and Jeff Cooley's the head boys coach, and Steve Clemmy stepped down after last year, after 20-some years, actually 20 years on the nose, and then, of course, all the baseball coaches are coming back. And
good.
We had a pretty solid year last year. We probably had to look for a little pitching. We lost Jordan to Franklin last year, and he was a solid starter and on the South All-Star team. And golf has lost 4 seniors, so we'll see what comes out. Unfortunately for us, Doug Fishesher just resigned last week, so
did he?
We're in the process of looking for a new head coach. Yeah, we've got some applicants, and we'll start that process here as the week goes along. Doug had done a great job, and it's hard to replace Doug, who's played at Florida State, played in the Masters twice, and played in the Walker Cup, which is the Ryder Cup version for college. And but we'll keep moving forward.
Sure.
Girls tennis I thought Coach Dirks did a great job with the girls last year of developing from his first year to second year, and the numbers have gotten bigger. So hopefully we'll be able to fill some of those senior shoes that left. We lost quite a few of them last year.
Courts ready to play on?
Courts are up, nets are down right now, and the gates are locked, but it won't be long before we'll have them poles back in the ground and nets back up. So
good.
Courts look great, and lights are in the process of hopefully be up by the end of March. So that will help.
That'll be great to be able to have some tennis matches here at home because they had to be on the road.
Yeah, unfortunately for the guys. I mean,
sure.
It's a hard one, but in the big scheme of things, it's a great positive thing for our tennis program.
Well, yeah, that's. I'm really happy to see that completed. What else you planning out on the campus? Trying to get a new softball field.
Well, we've got a master plan in place to try to upgrade all of our athletic facilities.
Okay.
So hopefully in time, we're working on some of those things to help out with all of our sports programs.
Brent, we appreciate you stopping by tonight, bringing us up to date on what's going on at CHS. It's always good to have you on the show, and you got a lot of information for us. You have any final questions for this guy, Sam?
No, I don't. It's always a pleasure to have him in here between us, and always look forward to seeing him at the bowl.
And we appreciate the courtesy that Brent and all of his staff show us when we show up for a Spartan event. Thanks, everybody, for watching the Spartan Sports Report for this week.